I'm Chris. It's Dad. Excuse me. Firstly, I want to apologise in advance. As much as we're trying to use today as a celebration of Dad, it's still emotional. So I may break into a sobbing mess at any time. If I do, please be patient with me and understand that the tears are not always a reflection of sadness. They quite often come from a place of just overwhelming admiration. So all I ask is that you stick with me so I can share some thoughts on somebody who was a great man. My dad. My hero, my teacher, my best friend. He taught me to read, he taught me to write, he taught me to love, he taught me to dream. But many of the lessons that I learned from Dad actually came from watching the way that he lived his life. So, in no particular order, I thought I'd put together the top 5 lessons that I learned from Dad. Lesson 1. You never stop learning. Dad defined the old saying of you learn something new every day. Over the years, he owned over 1,000 books on topics ranging from politics, religion, music, cars, trains, history, sports, you name it. Often you'd be mid-conversation and Dad would leave the room to find the exact book on the discussion that you were having. I've got fond memories of Dad as I was growing up. Sitting at the kitchen table reading, making notes, completely absorbed with the passion of learning. His thirst for knowledge would continue to be a theme throughout his entire life. But it gave him more than knowledge. It gave him an ability to connect with people in ways that I always admired. He could meet a perfect stranger and within minutes be completely engaged in conversation. When he was finished with a book, he would quite often make footnotes and then pass them on to others. And it was his way of being able to share something that he valued so much. Life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. He stole the quote from the great John Lennon, but in so many ways he understood what this meant. As a child growing up in Bridgenorth, Dad kept a diary record of every mile that he travelled on his bike. He ambitiously filled in the years ahead with his plan to complete a ridiculous amount of miles. It wasn't until later in life that he realised that he would have to ride until he was 80 to achieve this goal. I don't think he ever did reach it, but it certainly didn't stop him trying. Over the course of 80 years, Dad's plans changed regularly. Planning to come to Australia, planning a family, planning a career, planning retirement. But what Dad understood in all of his wisdom was that despite the plans, it's the journey in between these that matters. Thank you. As many of you know, Dad wrote a book about his life called Bridgenorth to Berwick. What a lot of people don't realise is that the stories are so meticulously detailed because he kept a diary for such a large portion of his life. And over the last few days, I've taken great joy in reading some of these notes. And it reminds me of the little moments as the ones that ultimately define us. It's in these little moments that we've laughed, we've cried, we've shared good times and bad. We've grown stronger together as a family. Stay strong. Timely reminder, Dad. Life isn't always going to go your way. Get used to it and stay strong. Pause on the journey sometimes, reflect, and realise that you just have to make it work. Dad did that well. Dad did it the best. Love a lot. You can't tell the story of Dad without telling the story of Mum. Romeo and Juliet have got nothing on the story of Roger and Jean. For over 50 years, Dad was infatuated with Mum and never shied away from letting everyone know how much he felt for her. And yet somehow he still managed to find room in his heart for everyone who later became part of his family. And it's not just kids, it's not just grandkids, it's not immediate family that he classed as his family. It's everyone here. In Dad's eyes, this family. When Dad said, "God bless," you knew it was coming from the deepest part of it. And when you look at the photos, you can see the pride and the love in Dad's face. He loved a lot, and he was loved in return because of it. Lesson 5. What a timely reminder, Dad. Dad defined the dad joke. When he became a granddad, he embraced what the kids like to call grandpa humour. Oftentimes tacky, but never crude. Someone commented to me recently, saying that he rarely heard Dad ever swear. And I think the closest, maybe, was when we were talking about PO boxes and Dad said, "I'd be pretty PO'd if I lived in a box as well." I don't write jokes like that anymore. I always knew Dad was funny. All my memories are anchored to laughter. But I've only just realised that Dad actually used humour as an extension of his love. Even in the confusion of the recent stroke, when his body was going through an incredible amount of trauma, he was still able to find the strength for his one-liners. But he knew that by making everyone else around him laugh, that the pain of the situation would be forgotten, if only it was for a moment. His unique blend of wisdom, compassion, and humour has helped us all get through rough times. This was the genius of Dad. This morning when I was putting this together, my little boy sat on my lap, looked at a photo and said, "He still makes me smile and laugh." He said, "And then I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss him too, mate." But I need to remember what Dad would say.
Some things in life they can really make you mad. Other things just make you swear and curse. When you're chewing on life's bristle, don't grumble, give a whistle. And this'll help things turn out for the best. Hey, always look on the bright side of life. Always always look on the light side of life. If life seems jolly rotten, there's something you've forgotten, and that's to laugh and smile and dance and sing. When you're feeling in the dumps, don't be silly chumps, just purse your lips and whistle, that's the thing. And always look on the bright side of life. Come on! Always look on the right side of life. For life is quite absurd, and death's the final word. You must always face the curtain with a bow. Forget about your seat, give the audience a grin. Enjoy it, it's your last chance anyhow. So always